Hello and welcome to today's video. Double upload in the middle of my Worlds previews. I've had a few people, more than a few people, bring up, hey, what do you think about this LTA situation? That LTA is dead, right? And LCS and CBLOL are going to return, but LLA are not. And so I think it's imperative that I do a video on it because last year I made a video where I thought it was a positive thing. I thought the LTA theoretically would work, that everybody could help everybody. I think what I say, LTA North had the money, LTA South had the fans and the narratives and the hype, and then LLA had a large player base, right? And only one part of those three actually worked. I mean, maybe LLA's player base is still huge and helping everything out, but I think their regional setup is pretty good, a lot more reliable than what North America has. Obviously, Brazil has a great system with CD, but like in terms of hype and narrative, like LTA South still supported League of Legends, and CBLOL helped LTA North, now again the LCS. And it's so like people keep asking, like, why do you well, I mean sorry what do you think about CBLOL only having one world seed and LCS having three? And I've seen multiple theories on it, and some I'm gonna talk about. I mean, one in particular, I do believe the theory that the LCS are desperate to fill their slots, that they are struggling to find 8 teams to actually want to be in League of Legends in North America. I truly do believe that, or at least 8 teams that they want to allow, for lack of a better word. And you think about it, precisely 100 Thieves. They couldn't even sell their team. They couldn't sell their slot. And then they go to Worlds, right? And, you know, the whole... that's a struggle. So you need to have extra slots, because if without extra slots, teams are like, oh well, my chances of going to Worlds are slim, and that's where the money comes. Whether people want to agree or disagree, I honestly I believe a majority of the money comes from Worlds. That's where teams, especially the teams with the big rosters, the big money rosters, um, break even. I think back a few years ago when Joe Marsh said something about T1, like, hey, the only way we're breaking even pretty much is if we win Worlds, and they've been breaking even, right? But it's hard to break even without Worlds. So promising 3 slots makes sense in that way, but people are like, well, Brazil only got one. That kind of sucks. And it's like, yeah, it does suck. It sucks because I do think like a joint playoff between LTA North and LTA South was beneficial. I think the formats were absolutely atrocious. I do blame Fearless for that because of the late committal to Fearless, that it wasn't a thing before the season started and said, hey, the whole season's Fearless, let's set up accordingly. It became after, during the first split and first stand, hey, let's do Fearless. And it's like, oh shit, well, we got to do Fearless now. And we do not have the schedule in place to do it. And then they half-ass the schedule. It's fucking terrible. And I mean, it truly, like, it's hard to say whether we got the best teams from specifically LTA at this tournament. I think that you got the best teams from the other four regions. Maybe you could say LPL you didn't, but I think definitely the other three you did. And the formats just were terrible in LTA. So this solves that. The return helps that. But it's like, well, what about Brazil's one world spot, though? Like, what are we doing here? Didn't they prove that they are capable of possibly sending 2 teams? And in my opinion, I've been saying this since 100 Thieves and Shopify seemed to be the 2 teams that were going to join FlyQuest at LTA Championship. I was like, shit, there's a strong chance that LTA South could take 2 teams here. Because this is the inconsistency of everybody but FlyQuest in LTA, and that includes North and South, was extremely apparent. like vastly and super inconsistent. And I mean, I've had people ask me about Vivo Keyd stars, like, hey, what do you think? I think this is, people are obviously getting excited, and you got VKS fans saying, oh, well, this is the best team Brazil's ever sent. I think it's the most inconsistent year that I've ever seen. Um, and it's scary because when you look at a situation like this where you're patch to patch, and I do view the game as a game that changes every 2 weeks, and it isn't the same game in May as it is in August, that the inconsistency to go from meta to meta and patch to patch is scary, because you go to Worlds, and are VKS going to look like they looked in winter, in spring? Because, yeah, summer they hit it, yes, and don't get me wrong, statistically, VCAS were always pretty good. Like, Furia statistically was much better for a large part of the year, but VCAS continued to get better and better. And that's where the consistency that I do see is that Seal has the team getting better and better. And I saw his tweet today about his thoughts on the future of how contracts and things should go. And I think that all of it actually made a ton of sense. Some of it were things that people don't want to hear, but it's great. And honestly, I've saw some of his replies and how he approaches players, and I think that is also the right way to do things in terms of content creation and solo queue, etc. Like, that is, he clearly, that team is getting better and better because of that leadership, and actually holding the players accountable. So I do think that there is something to be said about that, and why VCast are getting better as the season goes along. However, at the same time, it's like, okay, well, did they just hit it right? And it's like, well, I mean, 100 Thieves and Shot, like, if we're at a point where, like, we combine LCS and CBLOL and we only have one team that's consistent, okay, well, then, yeah, I guess you could send two. And it's like, well, why would you send three LCS teams then and one Brazilian team? And it's like, okay, well, then, what they should do, in my opinion, you take the top four from each region and you do a mini playoffs with those 8 teams, and the top three are the ones that go. Top four, I don't know, go to Worlds. And it would be kind of weird to have the top four go out of 8. The fact that we're sending 3 LCS teams is atrocious. But maybe the format will get better for Worlds in 2026, and they've got some master plan, and they're playing 5D chess, 4D chess, or whatever, on how they're going to approach that. But, I mean, it sucks. It sucks because Brazil showed up, LTA Championships, VKS went to finals, they beat 100 Thieves, they got there. Now they got smoke showed by Fly, but that's fine. I mean, who really, like, it wasn't a surprise. Like, there's a lot of development that has to go on with VKS. We have 3 players that have never went to an international event before, and there's a lot of, like, serious development that needs to happen in this regard. That's why this tournament matters a lot to that team going forward into 2026. But it's just, I don't know, it feels shitty. I've seen the things about LLA. Now, so before this season, I didn't watch minor regions play. I did, and I've always said I didn't. So I didn't watch Brazil. I didn't watch PCS. I didn't watch VCS. I didn't watch LJL. I didn't have time. I watched the 4 major regions, and that was it. And this year I said, okay, we'll watch all 5 regions and do it this way and just figure it out, right? We have less teams now. It's doable. So I didn't watch LLA. All I could think about was at Worlds, the limited space in the studio and things, and just how, I don't know, so many, like, in the lack of competitiveness, and it's a shame because Rainbow 7 actually looked decent towards the end there, but it just didn't, it just wasn't succeeding. And you can say, well, LCS isn't, and it's like, you're right, LCS really doesn't do very well either, and I think there's a ton of reasons why that is. I can't even watch, I mean, whoever's casting, or not, I actually have casters and shit that watch this, so it's like, you do what you do, but, like, as a dude in his, like, early 30s, it's just not my bag to watch stuff that appeals to Zoomers. So It just isn't my thing. So I'm not the demo. So if it's working, it's working. But I mean, based on the viewership, it's tough. And in the end, the LTA and LCS needs narratives to succeed by itself. It's gonna have, like, there needs to be like this whole like Bwipo Dokla thing. Like, Bwipo, obviously, we've made a video about women in esports. Bwipo was very, very wrong about what he said, but also it brought on a bigger discussion, and that's mentioned in my video about the fact that women theoretically should be players in tier one. Like, it just doesn't make sense why there aren't any. Um, but like I said, I've already talked about that in a different video. But it's like the Bwipo Dokla. Um, I don't want to say rivalry, because for a rivalry to happen, you need both sides to be winning, and that's not a shot at Dokla. It's just a matter of fact, in my opinion. Um, but you have a situation where there is a reason to watch, because you're like, God, these guys really don't like each other right now. And you don't want, like, we all want the world to be, rainbows and cupcakes and shit. But the fact of the matter is, um, I don't know, competitiveness. Like, I feel like with competitiveness comes a bit, and this is a hot take, a bit of toxicity. So without that toxicity, you end up in a situation where it's like, okay, well, this is whatever. Like, I think about like FPS games where I mentioned this actually last year with Cheaton, and CBLOL has this. They have this, just the emotion in the game to get up out of your chair and be like, yeah, motherfucker, I just did that. And like Brant's at Worlds 2022, the charisma, like the charisma, the emotion, the personality is just oozing out of those players, and it's awesome to watch. It is the best part of LTA. The best part of CBLOL is the personality. It really is, because the players aren't afraid to be themselves. And I do wonder how much of this has to do with sponsorships, because people say, well, and CBLOL, they struggle with sponsorships and this and that, and maybe that's why, because players in LCS are afraid to speak their minds. Maybe they're worried in this and that. And I mean, I'm not talking about saying the stuff that Bwipo said, of course, but I'm talking about like showing personality, showing that you're pissed off when you've lost, or I mean, if you talk shit when you win, like, I don't know, I think, like, I feel like that needs to be created. It needs to be created. You need to have a rivalry. There is no rivalry. There is no, I want to watch these two teams play. That, like, oh, they play against each other all the time, there's a rivalry. No, it's just like these two teams are constantly playing each other. There is no, like, and I don't want people to hate each other, but there's no, like, I just don't feel the competitive, like, angst towards your opponent of like, I really want to beat this motherfucker. And it ain't happening. I just don't feel it. I don't feel it. And I don't know if it's because, the way that, the coaches are and this and that maybe there's a, the culture of the players, the culture of LCS. And I mean, that's a totally another video. And I know we're talking about LTA is dead and why do Brazil only get one seed? And it's like, they're getting one seed because the LCS is desperate to fill 8 slots. The LCS has a ton of fucking problems. A ton of problems. Hell, they're trying to do the NACL freaking format, and they can't get teams willing to play. The teams that win the Academy League do not want to even try to play to get in LCS. They're like, oh, well, fuck. I don't want to do that. It's not on my schedule. Or, you think about near airport. It's like, oh, well, I mean, for a lack of a better word, thankfully they lost, because it seemed like they didn't really want to do this. It was kind of like shits and giggles, and then it was like, oh, fuck, we're really in this. And then it was like, oh, fuck, we're really in this. And it's like, thankfully they lost. It's just, I don't know, it's a joke. It's all a joke. It's all a joke. CBLOL deserves 2 spots. They deserve 2. I don't think they do. If LCS has 2, I mean 3, CBLOL deserves 2. If LCS hit 2, CBLOL deserves 1, in my opinion. First stand, they gave Brazil a spot because it's in Brazil. I do believe that. I believe that they didn't even want to broach the possibility of playing LCS 2 versus Brazil 1 for a spot at first stand. And I really, the Brazilian fans are going to support that LTA South team. It could be a Latin American team for all we know that ends up winning. But that very well could be that could be ugly. That could be ugly. I just hope VCast somehow, I don't know, I hope they get a matchup that's advantageous for them at this Worlds against a 100 Thieves again, maybe, or Fnatic, or Team Secret Whales. And, I'm purposely picking the teams that are at the lower end of those the LEC, LTA, and LCP for a reason. I think we all know why. But I hope that they can show up and maybe take a game and be competitive at this event. For the sake of, because I'll tell you right now, if they get blown out, I mean, who can't say Riot's vindicated if 100 Thieves shows up at this event? You'd be like, it was a bad patch for them, and they just didn't hit it. Look at the history of how these regions have matched up, LCS and CBLOL. Last year CBLOL's 1 seed beat 100 Thieves to get into the main event, but 100 Thieves were the 3 seed. So, you could say, well, Furia beat Cloud9 at EWC. I don't even remember. I think that was a best of 1. I mean, we're grasping at straws here. Did they win? Yes. How much does it really matter? EWC to me was a fucking joke anyways. It's a joke tournament. So, I mean, people want me to talk about this. I mean, I think it's terrible, but hopefully it sets up for a better regular season format, better playoff format. We can get the best teams to go to Worlds. We can get the best teams to go to the playoffs. The teams can prepare better. I do believe that LTA South is going to suffer because they do not get to play against LTA North teams. So, CBLOL versus LCS, I think they benefited from those boot camps and had opportunities to scrim better teams. And I think that by only scrimming in a bubble in Sao Paulo will be problematic. You're back to where you were on the whole. You got to make yourselves better, pretty much. You're on an island. You got to make yourselves better. And that's proven to be tough. So, hopefully this rambling video made some sense. Thank you for watching. If you liked the video, like it. Subscribe to the channel for daily League of Legends content. Follow me on Twitter, join the Discord, become a YouTube supporter, and hope to see you again tomorrow.